HSBC has been issued a forced liquidation notice. This isn't advice or a caution, it's an absolute requirement. The cutoff is February 28th. The shortfall is 7 billion ounces of silver vanished, nowhere to be found. It was never physically there from the beginning. Their internal forecasting models are calculating silver reaching $312 per ounce. Allow me to repeat that figure. $312. Currently, at this moment, silver is valued at approximately $80 per ounce. That represents a 390% increase within mere weeks. Yet here's what renders this projection even more startling. Gold presently stands at $4,500 per ounce. That creates a gold to silver ratio of 56.1. Through history, that ratio has typically been 15.1 over the past 100 years. Should silver merely revert to its historical average while gold maintains current levels, we're examining $300 per ounce at minimum. And that's without considering what's genuinely occurring in the background. Here's the information being concealed from you. A confidential HSBC internal risk evaluation has just emerged. The file is labeled Restricted, February 2026, Asia Pacific Trading Division. The heading reads, Critical Delivery Failure Protocol, Silver Physical Deficit. Within that document lies a solitary statement that transforms everything. Quote, Asian vault storage facilities presently contain 27% of designated customer silver holdings. Emergency procurement necessary to avoid regulatory involvement and possible criminal prosecution, 27%. That indicates 73% has vanished. Not postponed, not in shipment, not undergoing processing, vanished. We're discussing Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai, the purportedly impenetrable storage facilities that institutional buyers, hedge funds, and wealthy persons entrusted with billions in precious commodities. Empty. And here's the element that ought to frighten every investor viewing this video presently. HSBC is not the only one. This represents the observable fracture in a framework that's been deteriorating for generations. Because what's transpiring right now involving HSBC and silver has occurred previously. 3 instances in contemporary history. Identical pattern, identical phases, identical unavoidable result, and each single occasion, the individuals who identified the pattern quickly emerged prosperous. The individuals who failed to, they were financially ruined. So here's our plan for the following 20 minutes. I'm going to demonstrate the precise 4-phase system that controls every precious metal catastrophe in documented financial history. Next, I'm going to verify it through 3 case examples, different eras, different nations, matching results, and subsequently, we're going to implement that pattern to what's unfolding presently with HSBC, phase by phase, stage by stage. By the conclusion of this video, you'll comprehend why $312 per ounce represents more than a forecast. It's a mathematical inevitability, and you'll understand precisely what action to take before February 28th comes. Let's start. Every precious metal catastrophe follows the identical progression, not comparable, identical, 4 phases, consistently ordered, never omitted. Here's the system. Phase 1, the foundation. A government or organization requires liquidity immediately, so they establish a guarantee. They declare, provide us your gold, provide us your silver, we'll safeguard it, we'll vault it, and whenever you desire, you can retrieve it back. Straightforward, reliable, protected. Except here's the deception. They're not genuinely safeguarding all of it. They're safeguarding some, perhaps 10%, perhaps 30%, perhaps 50% if they're being cautious. The remainder, they're liquidating it, leasing it, pledging it, employing it as backing for additional transactions. Why? Because they're wagering on human psychology. They understand most individuals won't request their metal returned. Not collectively, not concurrently. Therefore, they accept the gamble. They exploit the reserve. This represents the foundation, the basis, the initial transgression. Phase 2, the escalation. Time progresses, years, occasionally generations, and the arrangement functions. People place metal, some remove, but most maintain it there. The organization becomes overconfident, avaricious, irresponsible. They begin liquidating paper certificates on metal they lack, forward contracts, ETFs, designated holdings, undesignated holdings, derivative instruments stacked upon derivative instruments. Every paper certificate states you possess silver, you possess gold. You can claim delivery whenever, yet the metal is non-existent. They've generated 100 certificates for every actual ounce. And here's the elegant aspect. As long as nobody requests delivery, the fraud remains hidden. Values remain steady. Markets remain tranquil. Everyone assumes the system is financially sound, yet beneath it's a pyramid operation, absolutely straightforward. The sole distinction between this and Bernie Madoff is Bernie was exposed before the game concluded. The bullion institutions, they're continuing to operate the scheme. Phase 3, the emergency. Something shifts. Perhaps it's monetary expansion. Perhaps it's conflict. Perhaps it's monetary destruction. Perhaps it's simply one major investor who determines they desire physical possession. Irrelevant what initiates it. What signifies is this. Abruptly, numerous individuals desire their metal. Simultaneously, the organization becomes alarmed. They attempt to acquire metal through available markets, yet there's insufficient supply. Nowhere near adequate. Values begin escalating. 10%, 20%, 50%. They announce postponements, justifications, operational difficulties, bureaucratic processing delays, distribution chain interruptions. Yet the information circulates. And once the information spreads, everyone stampedes for the doorways. That's the emergency. The instant the fabrication shatters, the instant everyone comprehends they're holding vouchers to a performance that's completely oversold. Phase 4. The breakdown. 2 options, exclusively 2. Option 1. The organization confesses the deception, announces bankruptcy. Clients receive pennies per dollar. Legal battles continue for years. Attorneys become wealthy. Investors become financially destroyed. Option 2. The government intervenes, mandates a resolution, compensates through and devalued currency, modifies the regulations after the fact, claims the predicament, distributes the damages. Regardless, the individuals possessing paper guarantees become destroyed. The individuals possessing physical metal become prosperous instantly, because once the deficit is disclosed, the value doesn't simply increase, it detonates. Now here's the essential element. This isn't conjecture. This isn't guesswork. This pattern has transpired 3 occasions in contemporary history, and each single occasion it manifested precisely like this. Allow me to demonstrate. Example 1. The London Gold Consortium, 1961 through 1968. Following World War II, the United States possessed most global gold, approximately 20,000 metric tons, exceeding every other country combined. They established a guarantee. They stated, "No, we'll maintain gold at $35 per ounce indefinitely. We'll liquidate as much as the marketplace requires." Value stability assured. Other nations trusted them. They retained dollars rather than gold because dollars were supposedly as valuable as gold. You could enter a Federal Reserve location with $35 and depart with 1 ounce of gold whenever. No inquiries required. Phase 1 accomplished. The foundation was flawless, sophisticated, trusted. Yet here's what was occurring behind the curtain. The U.S. was creating currency, financing the Vietnam conflict, expanding the social programs, operating enormous shortfalls, and every dollar they created was theoretically exchangeable for gold at $35 per ounce. By the initial 1960s, basic arithmetic exposed the predicament. The U.S. had created more dollars than they possessed gold to support them. Phase 2. The expansion in progress. By 1960, international central institutions began growing concerned. France was the initial. Charles de Gaulle arose in a media conference and stated something that astounded the financial community. He challenged the validity of the dollar as the worldwide reserve medium. He labeled the arrangement an disproportionate advantage for the United States. And subsequently, he performed something extraordinary. He dispatched a warship to New York Harbor and required physical gold for France's dollar holdings. Not documents, not guarantees, not obligations. Physical metal, 200 tons worth. The U.S. was unable to decline. Excessively politically delicate, excessively significant an associate. Therefore, they transported the gold. Yet that initiated the cascade. Additional nations followed. Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands. Everyone desired their gold returned. The U.S. attempted to halt the hemorrhaging. They established the London Gold Pool. 8 central institutions consented to liquidate gold collectively to restrain the value, maintain it beneath $35. They released hundreds of tons, attempting to safeguard the arrangement, yet the mathematics was unavoidable. By 1968, they'd released excessive gold. The consortium fractured. Nations began demanding gold at accelerating rates. The U.S. confronted a decision. Either acknowledge they couldn't fulfill their guarantee or modify the regulations. On August 15, 1971, President Nixon performed the unavoidable. He suspended the gold window. Overnight, the dollar became unlinked from gold. No exchange, no reimbursement, simply a declaration. We're modifying the regulations. Your dollars are presently supported by nothing except faith. And the value of gold? It detonated from $35 per ounce in 1971 to $850 per ounce by 1980. That's a 2,400% increase in 9 years. Individuals who possessed physical gold became prosperous. Individuals who possessed paper dollars observed their acquisition power obliterated. Identical pattern, identical phases, identical result. Example 2, the Hunt brothers' silver manipulation, 1979-1980. Nelson Bunker Hunt and William Herbert Hunt, two affluent Texas siblings, determined to accumulate silver, not for investment, for power. They desired to manipulate the silver marketplace and generate billions. Here's how they accomplished it. Phase 1. They began acquiring physical silver, millions of ounces. They established shell corporations, offshore holdings, subsidiary accounts. They acquired through every available channel. By 1979, they possessed roughly 100 million ounces of physical silver, approximately 1/3 of the worldwide deliverable inventory. Phase 2. They didn't cease at physical. They began acquiring silver futures contracts, thousands of agreements. And here's the intelligent part. When those agreements reached maturity, they didn't liquidate for currency. They claimed physical possession, every solitary ounce. The exchanges became alarmed. The commodity institutions became alarmed because the Hunt brothers weren't speculating on silver. They were extracting it from the marketplace completely. By early 1980, they possessed so much silver that the price detonated from $6 per ounce in 1979 to $50 per ounce by January 1980, an 800% increase in 12 months. But here's where Phase 3 commenced. The exchanges modified the regulations. The CFTC established emergency restrictions. They prohibited new long holdings in silver. They elevated margin requirements to 100%. They mandated liquidation-only transactions. Translation: the Hunt brothers were compelled to liquidate. They couldn't acquire more. They couldn't maintain their holdings. The marketplace understood. Value collapsed from $50 per ounce to $11 per ounce in 8 weeks. The Hunt brothers defaulted on $1, $7 billion in obligations. Phase 4, breakdown. They declared financial insolvency. Their property was confiscated. They confronted legal proceedings, prosecutions, financial destruction. Yet here's what individuals overlook. While the Hunt brothers were financially destroyed, the individuals who possessed physical silver during that surge generated fortunes. Because even though the value ultimately corrected, there was a period, several months, when silver was the most valuable commodity on Earth. And the individuals who comprehended the pattern, who possessed physical metal, who liquidated at the peak, they emerged prosperous. Identical pattern, different participants, identical result. Example 3, the German Bundesbank gold audit, 2012-2020. After the 2008 financial emergency, Germany became concerned. They possessed 3,400 tons of gold, supposedly stored in the Federal Reserve vaults in New York and the Bank of England vaults in London. Yet they'd never genuinely confirmed it, not physically, not recently. So in 2012, the Bundesbank announced they desired an examination, not merely documentation, genuine inspection, physical verification. Show us the gold. The response from the Federal Reserve was immediate and peculiar. They stated, "We can't provide you with complete access, security protocols. Structural constraints will require time." Germany stated, "How much time?" The Federal Reserve stated, 7 years. 7 years to examine gold that's purportedly sitting in a storage facility with your identification on it. Phase 1, doubt emerges. The Bundesbank demanded repatriation. They stated, "Return our gold. We desire it transported to Germany, all 3,400 tons, immediately." The Federal Reserve stated, "We can't accomplish that. Operational complications. We'll repatriate some, perhaps 300 tons, across 7 years. 300 tons across 7 years. That's approximately 43 tons annually. Germany possessed 3,400 tons supposedly stored there. Simple arithmetic. At that velocity, complete repatriation would require 80 years. Phase 2. The postponements. Years progressed. Periodic shipments occurred. 5 tons here, 10 tons there. Certain bars were remelted. Certain bars possessed serial numbers that didn't correspond to German documentation. The Bundesbank didn't publicize this. They didn't generate a public disturbance. Yet insiders comprehended. The gold either wasn't there, or was leased to another party, or was pledged as backing elsewhere. By 2020, Germany officially announced they'd retrieved their gold. Mission accomplished. Yet here's the reality. They retrieved 674 tons, not 3,400. Not even near. And numerous financial analysts suspect even that 674 tons wasn't the initial gold. Different bars, different origins,